Day 820 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. Alright, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 486, predict the winner. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. You are given an integer array nums. Two players are playing a game with this array, player 1 and player 2. Player 1 and player 2 take turns with player 1 starting first. Both players start the game with a score of 0. At each turn, the player takes one of the numbers from either end of the array, i.e. nums of 0 or nums of length minus 1, which reduces the size of the array by 1. The player adds the chosen number to their score. The game ends when there are no more elements in the array. Return true if player 1 can win the game. If the score of both players are equal, then player 1 is still the winner, and you should also return true. You may assume that both players are playing optimally. Alright, y'all, so that may seem a little bit confusing at first, so let's go ahead and take a look at these examples just to make sure that we are doing this problem correctly. So, in example 1, we have our input nums equals an array of integers 1, 5, and 2. The output is false. Now, before we go into the explanation, let me just copy and paste this over here. Boom, then we say P1 for player 1, then we can add P2 for player 2. Boom. So, first rule of the game, at each turn the player must take one number from either end of the array. So player 1 goes first. He can either pick this 1 or this 2. So it says initially player 1 can either choose between 1 and 2. If he chooses 2 or 1, then player 2 can choose from 1 or 2 and 5. If player 2 chooses 5, then player 1 will be left with 1 or 2. So the final score will be player 1 is 1 plus 2 equals 3, and player 2 is 5. Hence, player 1 will never be the winner, and you will need to return false. So, let's go through both examples. So, say player 1 picks 1. Boom. So now he has a score of 1. Now, player 2's turn. Of course, he's going to pick 5 because we can assume both players are playing optimally. So, player 2 picks 5. Boom. Then player 1 picks the last 2. And either way he's gonna have less than 5, right? Even if, now let's back up, right? Let's say player 1 picked 2 first, right? It's still gonna be the same thing because then player 2 gonna still pick 5. Boom, and player 1 still gonna pick 1 last. Boom, and then it's going to be plus 1, and it's still going to equal 3 no matter what. So either way, player 1 is losing, so we return false. Boom. Now, let's take a look at example 2. Let's clean this up real quick, and let's take a look at example 2. So example 2 has our input nums equals an array of integers 1, 5, 233, and 7. The output is true. It says player 1 chooses 1, then player 2 has to choose between 5 and 7. No matter which number player 2 chooses, 1 can choose 223. Finally, player 1 has the score of 234, and the player 2 has the score of 12. You need to return true, representing player 1. So, in this case, same examples. We don't have to go all the way through it, but you can just see what's happening. Player 1 can either pick this 1 or this 7. If he's playing optimally, so he's going to pick that 1. Boom. When he picks that 1, that's going to force player 2 to either pick this 5 or this 7, right? Either way he picks, player 1's coming back in and getting that big boy 233, so he's going to win the game. So, I hope that makes sense to y'all, and now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. The solution is not that difficult at all. Now, first thing we need is the number of elements in the array. So we're just going to say let n equal nums.count. Boom. Now, if there's only one number, player 1 automatically wins. If there's an even number of elements, player 1 can always guarantee at least a tie by choosing numbers from either even or odd indices. So we're going to say if in mod 2 equals 0, or two vertical lines n equals 1, then we'll open up the brackets and we'll return true. Boom. Then, so our dynamic programming array will eventually represent the maximum score difference between, or that can be achieved from the subarray currently being considered starting at index I. Initially, when every subarray has a length of 1, the best score difference is simply the value itself. So to handle that, we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call it dp, and we'll set it equal to num. Then we're going to consider every possible subarray length starting from 2. So we're going to say for len in 2 ... n. We'll open up the brackets. Then we're going to iterate through every subarray of the current length. So we're going to say for I n 0 ... Open up the parentheses, n minus len. Boom. Then we're going to come outside of that, and ending index of the current subarray is going to be, we'll say let j equal I plus len minus 1. Boom. Now the current player has two choices. Take the left number, the opponent will, which will be nums of I, and the opponent will then play optimally on the remaining subarray, whose best score difference is going to be the dp of I plus 1. So the resulting score difference will be nums of I minus dp of I plus 1. Or he could take the right number, which will be nums of j, and the remaining subarray's best score difference is dp of I, so the resulting score difference will be nums of j minus dp of I. So we need to choose whichever one gives the larger score difference, or the player will choose whichever one gives the larger score difference. So we're going to say dp square bracket I, come outside of that, equals max. That's how we're going to get the largest score. We're going to say nums square bracket I minus dp square bracket I plus 1, come over outside of that, comma, nums square bracket j, come outside of that, minus dp square bracket I. Boom. Now if the maximum score difference is non-negative, then player 1 can guarantee at least a tie, which counts as a win. So we'll come right here and we're going to say return dp square bracket 0, come outside of that, is greater than or equal to 0, y'all. Boom. That's all she wrote. That's all the code. Let's go ahead and give it a run. Make sure it runs properly. Okay, ooh, let's see what we got here. This num should be nums with an S. So now let's try it again. See if that fixed it. It's accepted, so let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted. Boom, and look at that, y'all. 0 milliseconds beats 100% of users. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see, y'all. So with that being said, I hope y'all learned something today, and I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.